Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OurScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, OurScoop.com's podcast. I'm John DiCarlo, joined by Kyle Gauss, Javon Edmonds. Caden Steele is on his way home for the holiday to Lewis, Delaware, right?
Sounds right.
Yeah. Southern Delaware, by the beach. Kyle, Javon, happy Thanksgiving Eve, gentlemen. What's going on?
Turkey Eve. Excited.
Javon, I'm excited for you because we had this conversation about how you're going to wait. Are you and your mom cooking, or are you not cooking and you're going elsewhere?
I walked in the house, opened the fridge. We are indeed cooking.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
We'll talk. We've got some Thanksgiving mailbag questions too. But Javon, I'm happy for you, but I'm glad you weren't sure if you're going to be home tomorrow morning, I guess, but you're home now. We've got some, we'll talk about some famous number 17s, and then we have to address this Temple basketball team that everybody's upset about.
Yeah, we got to do some work for a living.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Famous number 17s.
Shohei
Jake
Ohtani.
Delhomme. Oh,
See Jake Delhomme?
Yeah.
Jake
Wow.
Delhomme.
Right out of the
Was
chute.
he was the quarterback the year they went to the Super Bowl in like 04, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. One of the God, what were they called? The famous bees for the Astros. One of them. Lance Berkman, 417. Alshon Jeffrey.
The third baseman that Philadelphia loves to hate.
Alex.
No, he played for the Phillies. Scott Rowland.
Does Philadelphia hate Scott Rowland now?
I feel like the fans, like, once he left, they were like, because he said,
I feel like that's turned.
St. Louis is baseball heaven, stuff like that.
But I feel like that's turned because people are so like, oh, should be in the Hall of Fame, blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they've turned on that.
Yeah.
The arch nemesis of Caden's roommate Max Green, Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Why
is he his arch nemesis? Just is he a Titans fan?
Dolphins fan?
Max is a Dolphins fan, and he just doesn't appreciate Ryan Tannehill. I personally think Philbin and Adam Gates held Tannehill back.
Yeah, Tannehill's fine for a converted wide receiver. He's a pretty good NFL quarterback.
Yeah.
So
played wide out at A now.
This is embarrassing. I should know. Is Patrick Mahomes number 17?
15.
15.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Oof.
Forget I said that.
Stupid.
People need to
shot himself in a nightclub.
Classical bars.
Yeah.
Wearing sweatpants, right? Didn't he have
so he just had a loaded gun, no safety on, into the sweatpants.
Yeah, like this will hold.
Brutal.
Javon, is there
Did he go to jail for that? Because you can't have a gun in New York City.
Yes, he did, yeah. So is there any chance of any relatives walking by the Zoom camera while we're recording like your grandfather did?
No, not today. So, like, since I'm at my mom's house, like, when my door is closed, they know I'm most likely doing work, and they just wait till I leave my room to bombard me with hugs and handshakes and food and alcohol. So,
see, when my door was closed growing up, they did not think I was doing work.
see, no. See, the door closing was an 18 and up thing. Yeah. Before that,
Javon.
Yeah. Before that, leave the damn door open. Yeah.
Whew.
Anywho.
Yeah. Basketball.
On to some basketball.
Yeah, what a segue. Well, guys, this is not good. We'll have a lot to talk about in the mailbag here, but Temple goes up to the Empire Classic. Javon, you were there for both games. Lost to St. John's, and then lost and did not look good at all last night in a 61-49 loss to Richmond. So this is now a 3-6. Well, no,
2-4.
2-4. Well, my math is way off. 2-4 Temple.
I think you're thinking about football.
Yes, I was. Thank you. Yeah,
which is 3-7.
That's what we'll go.
3-8.
Yeah, 3-6.
3-8. Yeah.
We should. We're off to a great start. None of us are drinking. Are you drinking, Kyle? What is that? A ginger beer?
It is a Tuesday afternoon. I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper.
It is a Wednesday afternoon.
It is a Wednesday afternoon. Jesus Christ. Oh God. No, I'm not drinking. Joe, I also thought I was drinking last night as I was feeding my daughter.
Yeah, because you said I'm missing one of Haley's bottles. And I thought you said Bailey's, and I was like, wow, all right. Anyway, not
Business
good.
season.
Not good. This team is underachieving. As Javon said, and I think in one of your tweets last night, it is very, very clear that this team does not value the basketball. They have turned the ball over 69 times in the last 4 games since beating Villanova. 3 of those 4 games, Damian Dunn's led the team in turnovers. He had 5 against Vanderbilt, 8 against Rutgers, 6 against St. John's. And of course, he was, prior to this stretch, was leading the country in scoring for a brief amount of time. Caleb Battle had the most of any Temple player last night with 6. But again, if you're listening to this podcast, you are certainly frustrated, as I'm sure, unless you're really, really just blind optimist. Javon, I'll start with you. You were there last night. You were there in Brooklyn at Barclays Center. I'll start with this because we know the complaints. We'll get to it in the mailbag. A lot of standing around on offense, not taking care of the basketball. Yes, it's a long season, but we know that they squandered a couple of opportunities now to get big, resume bolstering non-conference wins. Can this get turned around? Like Aaron says in the press conference, he like dissects the problem, but just it's not firing. We see Aaron McKee with a whiteboard drawing up stuff during timeouts. We know unless he's playing Wheel of Fortune, drawing stuff for his team, we know he's got to be drawing up something, and it's just not translating. Javon, again, you were there. You were up there covering both games. We see the obvious problems. Anybody could see it, but can this thing be turned around? It's a long season, but this just doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. They're not playing well. Last night was about as poorly as they played all season this early on. What can anything be done about this?
They get their leads, but then they blow them. So, I think the answer is clearly yes, they can turn it around. The problem is, in my eyes, I don't know how Kyle's going to feel about it. It's too late. It's not too late because there's so many games left. If you can keep this, you can turn it around and keep it going and win the conference tournament, sure, then you're fine. But if, months from now, we're in March, and Temple did not win the AAC championship, then we can go back to this podcast and say, yeah, it was too late. Because all their chances at resume building wins in the non-conference, in my opinion, are gone, right? And out of their 4 losses, at the moment, 3 of them don't look good. One of them can be excusable if Wagner wins the Northeast Conference this year. I don't know. I'm not a fan of the high pick and roll, 4 out, 1 in offense where everybody stands around, call a screen. Now all teams have to do is ice the screen, and then your offense is stale and stagnant, like Temple's has been. And then last night, Richmond, listen, I want to give them their credit. They said straight up from the jump, Jamil Reynolds is not going to beat us. Mm-hmm. From the very first play, they were double teaming him. Mm-hmm. And 3 minutes in, Jamil got that look on his face that I've seen so many big men look at. Oh, goodness, they're double teaming me all night. It's going to be annoying. The hell with it. Guards, y'all going to have to do your thing. They made it clear, Jamil's not going to beat us. Zach can't create a shot for himself. Hasir's not a scorer. Dame is gone cold and can't handle the press. So, yeah, Caleb Battle, you take your 20 shots, you make 10 of them, you go 6 for 11 from 3. That's all fine and dandy. But that's the only offense you guys are going to have, and you're not going to beat us. So, can it be turned around? Sure. Is it too late? If they don't win the conference tournament, then we can come back and say it was too late at this point. But, yeah, they something's got to give. The offense, I'm not a fan of. I hate the way basketball is played today, if anyone hasn't noticed. And Temple's 4 out, 1 in is a great example of it.
Well, 4 out, 1 in is also the reason that Matt Langle is successful up at Colgate. So it can work, and it can
work when you've got the right pieces for it.
Sure, and they don't. I think a couple of takeaways from that. One, I think the St. John's loss is quote unquote excusable from a bracketology standpoint. That's a fringe NCAA team that it's essentially a home game. The Vanderbilt game maybe ends up being fine. Vandy might be okay. It's really the Richmond game that like leaves a really sour taste in your mouth, right? Like that's a mediocre to bad A10 team that just like dominated you in the second half. I think a lot of it
Not even just the
is
second half. That 15-0 run to close out the
Yeah.
first half, where you
Yeah.
had 11 turnovers over the last 8 minutes of a half.
right.
That's
But then
disgusting.
they come back and they still take the lead in the second half and then blow it, right?
Yeah.
Like and then get like run off the floor with their lack of effort. Honestly, for this is gonna sound really weird considering how last week's episode goes. For as much ire Caleb Ballard drew over the last 10 days, he's the only one that's willing to take a shot.
Yep.
Like at the end of the game, he was the only one that was looking to actually get his shot on offense, which if they had 5 more of him, maybe they had a chance. The 69 turnovers is tied for the 4th most in a 4-game stretch in Temple history. The other 3 all happened during that first year of Fran Dunphy's team, where it was just Deontay, Mark Tyndale, and Dustin Salisbury turning the ball over 20 times a game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not ideal. I don't think it's too late. I think at Ole Miss is still a bracketology, like a opportunity to get a win. Do I think they're going to win at Ole Miss? I don't know, but I think Ole Miss is like another fringe team on the road. I don't think it's too late yet. And I'm going to preface this by saying I don't think this happens. But like if they win all the games they're supposed to win the rest of their out of conference, then they're going to be like 9-5 coming out of this out of conference. You got 2 wins in Nova and Rutgers that you think look better in March than they do now. You're probably okay with it. And the beginning part of their AAC schedule is weak, so maybe they're going to win there. I still think they have some duds left in them though. Like they basically have no margin of error left. And I think there's going to be a game where it's like whether it's Drexel or LaSalle or Penn that like they should win that they'll lose, and then that will be the end of their at-large bid hopes.
LaSalle and Penn are the trap games to me, especially LaSalle. Like if Dunphy does a let the teacher show the student how it's done type of game.
Sure. Dunphy also just lost to a bad Georgetown team. But he also beat Wagner, so you never know.
Mm-hmm. Javon, well, before we get to Damian Don and his struggles, Aaron keeps saying in these press conferences, again, coaches can't, there's nothing, fans like it when a coach comes in and wins a press conference. There's nothing that Aaron could have said last night that would make people feel better, but he keeps saying it's more about us. It's more about us. It's more about us. Well, what's wrong? Like, is it, again, we'll get into this in the mailbag too, but why are things not firing? If he can dissect all these problems correctly in the post-game press conference, why are the two ends not connecting? What are you seeing?
Everyone I've talked to said like, no, things just aren't clicking with the guys. Like, and I think for the first time, I actually saw that last night. Like in the second half, it wasn't the end of the game. I put out the tweet though, like Aaron called the timeout and the guys just looked defeated and demoralized and uninterested. Like he was clapping and trying to get their energy up, and they're just looking at him like, yo, I'm not trying to hear it. Like, just sit down. Let's go back to Philly at this point. That's a problem. And when each game, like, I know basketball is a game of runs. I hate using cliches as taught by John DiCarlo's sports writing class. But like in each of these games, they go on and it's exactly 4 minutes. And I'm going at least 3 of those 6 games. It's been between the under 8 and the under 4 of the first half, where they coast and they let teams just find a rhythm and never rebound from it. Like, I think yesterday was the worst because it went on for 8 minutes. Temple went on a scoring drought that lasted 4 minutes and 58 seconds. You go 8 minutes of 11 turnovers, 15-0 run. It wound up ending as a 20-5 run to close out the half. Like, stuff like that just can't happen. Like, at that point, I know the guys have to go out there and perform, and they need to show some dog. I'm not disputing that whatsoever. But if there's a problem that shows up in every game, then you have to start looking at the staff. Like, come on, man. What are these huddles looking like? What are these game plans looking out? Like, I'm not seeing anything that says you are putting effort into trying to get rid of these problems. I'm not understanding. And now teams know full court trap all game, double team Reynolds all game. I'm not sure if Temple now has to show that they can win going against that defense. And until they prove it, they can expect to see that for the rest of the season. Full court trap, double team Reynolds, let KB jack all the shots he wants, because that's going to be the only form of Temple's offense.
Yeah. So getting back to
real quick,
go ahead, sorry.
I know we talked about this the entire offseason or last 2 years, that this team's going to go as far as the ability for Caleb Battle and Damian Dunn to play together. And so far, the only game they've both gone over 20 was the upset at Villanova. Other than that, they just have not played well together. I think if you wanted to focus on like one play that maybe shows some of those problems, the end of the first half against St. John's, they get the ball back with 10, 11 seconds. I think they're down by 2. They get the ball into the half court. Caleb Battle looked to McKee for the play. I don't want to focus too much on one play. Damian Dunn, 1, didn't look to his coach. 2, didn't look to any other player. Just dribbled the clock out and then turned the ball over with 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how like much of that's by design. Like, I don't know if the play was always going to be like Dame just like run the clock out and try to see if you can get to the rim. But like literally KB looked for the play. Dunn might as well have been playing 1-on-5. He had no idea what else was going on there. So
yeah, like in the St. John's game, like that last minute and 15 was bad. Like you take the lead, then Hysier gives up the and one to Curbelo. Then the very next play, Dame dribbles the ball off his foot, and that's it. 8-0 run.
As everybody's standing around as well. It was just an ugly possession.
So that's, I mean, let's give a little bit of credit to, I know this is kind of obvious. Will Cummings, former Temple great, tweeted last night, if Dunn and Battle don't learn how to play together, it's going to be a long season. Like, I think it's obvious even to people that are a little bit of like outside observers that obviously know the program but don't know this regime, that they just do not mesh well at this point.
Mm-hmm. So after, Damian Dunn goes for 29 against Wagner, 22 in the 68-64 win over Villanova, 38, career high 38 against Vanderbilt. And at that point, he was, again, very early on the leading scorer in the country. Since then, 7 against Rutgers on 1 of 6 shooting in 28 minutes, 11 against St. John's on 3 of 12 shooting, 1 of 6 from 3. Again, in those 2 games, 8 turnovers against Rutgers, 6 against St. John's, and last night, 14 minutes, 0 for 4 from the field, 1 point that he gets at the line, only 1 turnover last night. But he has played poorly in these last 3 games. Aaron was asked about him last night, about how does he get Dame right, and this is what Aaron had to say after last night's game.
Coach, obviously, Damian Dunn, I started off the season really well, but struggled tonight, only 1 point, struggled, the last 2 games. How do you get it back going again?
Just, stick with it, trust in him and believe in him, and let him know that he'll figure it out. He's been playing basketball for a long time. He'll figure it out, but, we need him out there. We need his leadership. We need him on the offensive side. We need him on the defensive side. He's one of our, our playmakers, and we need him out there. So we'll work through that.
All right, let's go over to the mailbag before we talk about this Temple football team, because there's a lot to get to here. And just read something funny from Kyle in the script here. I'll acknowledge this because it cracks me up. JHG 722. Every time not every time, a lot of times after a tough loss, he just writes, "Why? Knew it was coming." We're getting to that, JHG 722. Next question here, shifting gears for a second, off topic. To you, Owls fan 2004, what's the pie situation looking like at your respective Thanksgivings?
Let me start this off by saying my wife felt that, like Costco has like the loss leader, like pies, like the pumpkin pie. You can buy like a massive pumpkin pie for like $5, which they're like, they lose money on, but they do it just like get you in the store. Mm-hmm. Meg came home with one of those, massive, puts it in the fridge on like Sunday. Felt the need to tell me, you cannot eat that pie prior to Thanksgiving. As if I was going to be on there like Monday night with like just scooping it.
As
like,
if you're just a heathen. I was like, I don't know.
I'm just like, oh yeah, like, oh, there's in there. Kyle's a dumb animal. It's in front of him. He's going to eat it. Like, no, like I know, I can understand that that's for Thursday. Mm-hmm. I'm sure my sister will make an apple pie. We have pumpkin pie. We're big, like we get the little like cakes as well. So we'll have a fair amount of treats.
Mm-hmm. Javon, what about you?
As far as like just the cuisine, I don't know. Like I texted somebody today how much we eat, and like apparently I got looked at like I was crazy. But for pie, it's apple and sweet potato. Like That's it. Leave it at that.
Who makes the sweet potato pie in your family?
My mom makes, whoever's hosting makes it. Like we just family full of people that can cook. I love it.
I think there's another Thanksgiving question. Oh yeah, two later. Another one, just pure emotion. Al 079 JDC. How much more suck can Temple fans tolerate? These were I put the call out for mailbag questions last night at just the right time. We'll see. We'll see how the season goes.
Look, I've said this about Temple football fans for 15 years. I think it takes a special type of person to deal with the amount of suck that like Temple football dealt with for such a long period of time and still keep coming back. So like just know that those of you out there that are dealing with this suck with basketball and football, but football I guess you're a little more optimistic. If there's ever a bright moment in Temple's future, you will have earned it for going through the amount of days. When I get to the pearly gates and I look and say, how many days did I waste watching bad basketball on like a Tuesday? Watched a lot of bad college basketball in my life.
Next question here. CH Evans is the screen name. These are all from our message boards. Another Thanksgiving question. What's your favorite Thanksgiving side dish?
John, you never answered the pie question.
Oh, apple and pumpkin. I think my brother and sister-in-law are bringing the pies over. I feel like I want to make a pie tonight, and I'm just like not going to get around to it. I once accidentally made what it was like 4 years ago. Todd Zlecki and his family came over, and he takes a piece of pie. He's like, Johnny, this is very good, very spicy, a little different. I like it. And it was because I accidentally spilled nutmeg in the pie, and Chelsea just heard me go, oh crap. She's like, what'd you do? I was like, the cap was off, nutmeg. I just had to spread it out. She was like, just go with it, see what happens. And everybody's like, this is different. I was like, yeah, it's different because I spilled nutmeg all over it. So
never try to replicate that though. Because like one day you're like, I'll do my spicy pie recipe. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, is this cayenne pepper?
Yeah. So I think it'll just be the standard ones. Although I don't think I've had sweet potato pie in a few years. Somebody brought it to work and it was just incredible. So, but usually apple and pumpkin. Favorite Thanksgiving side dish?
Oh, the mac and cheese. It's not even a question for me. Like candy yams are definitely second, but mac and cheese is just undefeated.
Yeah, stuffing, green bean casserole. I will say, growing up, I really liked cranberry sauce, like the canned cranberry sauce, and I still enjoy it. But for some reason, it's gotten in my mother-in-law's mind that like I eat cranberry sauce 52 weeks of the year. So like I have like 4 or 5 cans of like the jellied cranberry sauce in my pantry because my mother-in-law thinks like, oh, Kyle will like that, and she'll give it to me. Like even tomorrow, somebody will make a comment like, Kyle, you're gonna get more cranberry sauce? I'm like, I just enjoy it one day a year.
You know, Claire McNicholas is like on my Mount Rushmore. You know, I love her.
Yeah. Thank you for doxing my mother-in-law on this podcast.
I was listening to The Scoop. I heard you guys talking about whatever. She's a legend. I love her. It's stuffing from my mother-in-law's stuffing is incredible. And she made mac and cheese that I already got to taste test. Very, very good stuff.
Oh, that's cheating. You can't taste test.
You gotta wait till the day of. Yeah. I agree with that.
Boo.
Javon just booed me. Like, it's very innocent, like childlike boo, but it hit me right here.
I was hoping to see more of those last night with the Sixers game.
Yeah,
said they're relatively tame.
Yeah. Predictions. TU Owls 37 asks us also on the message board here. Predictions on how the season plays out.
I think they do go on a bit of a run, to be honest. Like not anything of consequence. I just think the schedule is so easy for the next month that like you can get by with either KB or Dunn just playing hero ball, or Jameel Reynolds is going to have some game where he's going up against a 6'6" big and he's just going to be able to drop 25 and 10, right? I just think the issue is they're going to be able to mask a lot of their deficiencies, and then they're going to get into conference play and they're just going to like all those deficiencies are going to come back. So I'll say they finish like 17 and 15, and you go, okay, no chance. Do you want to go to the CBI? No.
17, 15.
Oof, the CBI, and I'm at the point in life where like I'm such a small fish where I'd have to be like I'd have to cover that and wouldn't go.
To say no. They wouldn't go because CBI you have to pay to participate in. So they wouldn't go.
No. Who, man, I really like hate feeling like a negative Nancy or like Debbie Downer, especially this time of year. It's like I want to be festive and cheerful and happy go lucky, but like this weekend left a sour taste in my mouth. Like I asked Aaron about it. I'm like, this is 2 seasons in a row where you went 1-2 in feast week. You know, last year you got ran off the floor by Boise State and Clemson, and you got to win against Elon. Woohoo! And this
Well,
year, like,
well, I mean that's a good callback on your point. At the time, people thought that Boise State loss was going to be some dagger, and Boise State was probably the best team they played out of conference.
oh yeah,
So
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know, maybe Richmond figures it out and it doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, because Richmond is that team, the A10. Like they just go on a streak in the middle of
Right.
the season where they get hot, and then it's in February where you're like, okay, fellas, it's looking like you might let yourselves down again, and March comes, and yep, the Spiders are shot themselves in the foot. But yeah, and then this year, like, you know, Villanova was Villanova. They're banged up. You start feast week on Friday against a banged up Rutgers. And then you see the St. John's team that's not to be trifled in, right? And you blow a lead, and then you look flat against Richmond. I don't have faith in the team right now. I'm not going to say NCAA tournament. I guess I would say a semifinal exit in the conference tournament. And I don't know. They've got a chance at the NIT.
If they had beat St. John's and like lost to Syracuse or whatever it was, then like everyone would just be like, okay, this team's still on a seesaw, like they're figuring it out, blah blah. It's the fact that like you missed the opportunity, whatever, and you got smacked by Richmond. You're kind of at a fork in the road where I know I'm gonna get like crucified for saying this because like that 2000-2001 team played Duke twice and and Indiana, all this, but like that team also started 4-7 and then made the Sweet 16. So like it's not unheard of that like teams start bad and go
2001 team?
The 2000 to 2001 team, right?
They went to
they made the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
Which to get to the Elite Eight, you also have to make it to the Sweet 16, John. So that was factually correct.
You were texting.
Like yeah, like they started 4-7 and they reel it off and they get high at the right time. Do I think this team's gonna do that? No, but like it's just so early that you never know.
I do want to
go ahead, Javon.
I do want to add and interject as somebody who made the trip. You know, I want to say thank you to the good people at the Basketball Hall of Fame. You know, fed us chicken, fed us steak, fed us pasta. You know, fed us maple glazed salmon. Wonderful. The press room coordination, like it was a tight ship they ran. We were on the floor, and then we get to Brooklyn. Number one, St. John's and Syracuse. These should not be counted as neutral site games.
Yeah, that's horseshit. I agree.
Those were home games, okay? And the way they scheduled that thing was specifically to get those two teams in the final and try to sell out. Well, not even sell out because they had like the top row cut off, but sell some tickets to the Barclays Center. That's number one. Number two, no food. Number three, I thought Baltimore, like the Orioles and the Ravens, were expensive until I got to Philly and saw how expensive they were. And then I got to Barclays Center. And Lord have mercy, $7.50 for water. Yeah, Empire Classic, thanks, but possibly not again for a long time. Okay.
As like a press member, you had to spend $7.50 for water.
Yes.
No media meal at all.
No voucher. No media meal. No, nothing.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be because of the event. Because like I've covered games at Barclays that they feed you perfectly fine.
Huh.
So yeah, Empire Classic. You know, just thank you, but yeah, I'm cool off of y'all for a little while.
But like you're also in like a decent like area of the city for like food. So like that's one of the things. Like if you go back in the future, like you just know like go get Thai food down the street or something. Like don't rely on Barclays.
How do I see the season playing out?
Say what you mean, John. Don't
NIT at best right now. I mean, the only saving grace for them, and again, I'm kind of couching this like Kyle does. Do I see it playing out this way? No. You go on a run, but I mean, you start with okay, you start cleaning things up against Drexel. You beat LaSalle. How good of a win would VCU be at this point? You got then St. Joe's Penn. I like you'd have to go on a run And then you have Houston on the road, and then you get them back in 2 weeks. If you win one of those games and they're still a top 5 program, I think that's the only thing, winning one of those 2 games, that would make a believer out of anybody, would give them a shot in the arm. And if they play well enough and you say, all right, maybe this team's got a shot at doing something in the conference tournament, I think it now comes down to, you have to prove that you can beat Houston in one of these 2 games to have some confidence heading into the conference tournament. Otherwise, it's an NIT season at best at this point. I'm with you guys. It's kind of hard to have faith in things turning around. It is early. Yes, I think of that 01 team. It was more than 20 years ago. That was not Chaney's best team. And I mean, they were a Lynn Greer call away from not going to the NCAA tournament. We've talked about it before. Lynn Greer at the Spectrum gets fouled, taking a 3. Tom Penders just absolutely loses his crap. They beat GW. They beat a Bruiser Flint UMass team, and then they go on a run and they get hot at the right time. It would have to be something like that. But
for the next 6 weeks, the only game that can move the barometer in a positive way is at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Every other game that you win between now and probably like the Tulane game is literally just going to be like, oh yeah, well they should have won that game.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's the thing that they got going gets for you. Like, you might still be able to figure out a good win-loss record, but like, you've lost those opportunities to kind of like sway public opinion and committee opinion.
Yeah. This next one comes from Park Owl. He's having some fun with me here because he posted a mailbag question last week.
I laughed at this
on time, and we just didn't get to it. Dear Mr. I'm too good to answer more than 2 mailbag questions. Battle was benched earlier this season.
You didn't do it to the Stan lyrics.
Dear Mr. Too Good.
Like, he's saying like, Dear Mr. I'm too good to write back my fans. Like, he's like referencing the Stan.
Oh
lyric.
yeah, and he put that up on the boards too. Battle was benched earlier this season. Dunham Reynolds were seemingly benched tonight. I don't know if Jameel Reynolds was seemingly benched. That this was, last night. What is going on with McKee's doghouse? Javon, did you get the sense that Aaron was upset with Jameel, or was it just like hey, this isn't working, we gotta get him out of there?
Jameel didn't get let me see who said Park Owl. Love you. Dear Mr. I'm too good to answer more than 2 mailbag questions was something. But no, Jameel didn't get benched. Dunn didn't get benched. Like,
I got the opinion that Jameel was upset with the game. Like, his body language whenever they showed him on the bench was bad.
But like, no, they were ineffective. Dame was ineffective, so you sit him down. That's just basketball coaching. That's not benching. That's not a doghouse.
Right.
And Jameel was the.
Do you want to talk to last week, Javon, and tell him that, because you're arguing the other side of?
Hold on, wait. The KD situation, I will stand 10 toes on. It was different. And with the Jameel one, that wasn't a doghouse thing. Like, that was. I feel like this one is one of those ones where, like, if you didn't play basketball, like, you wouldn't understand. But like, no, dominant big men. There are games in every season. Like, if you watch the Sixers, I'm sure Embiid has these all the time when, like, he's just either getting double teamed or fouled all night. And it's like, yeah, it's just not going to be his night. Just bring him down, because it's just not going to do much for you. That's what happened with Jameel last night. Like, you just got to sit him.
Let me ask you this, Javon, like, from rear view, could he have been better? Could he have been A, better at passing out of double teams, and B, were the other 4 guys on the floor ready to receive those passes and moving, and was the spacing there? Was it just all completely messed up?
No, it was. So I have one of the plays, like, picture perfect in my mind. 4 out, 1 in, 2 guys on the corner, 2 guys on the wing. Jameel's on the left block. Pass comes, Richmond's in zone. And like, where they were bringing the double from, there's nowhere to pass it to an open man. Like, you're just passing it right back to a contested guy and going into more swing. That's eating the shot clock. And like, no, Richmond just executed it perfectly. Like, this is how you ice the big man out of the game. You put your fastest off-ball player to come double team, and then he gets back. And it's just repeating the same thing. So, like, there was nothing Jameel could have done last night. Richmond just executed perfect defense on a big man. That's it.
Yeah. Al I-89, another just pure emotional question. Does this horror movie end?
Everything ends, Al.
Yeah, everything ends.
Eventually.
Including life.
We all just go back to the dirt, man. Like, eventually this will go on.
Wah, wah. Yeah, it ends. Again, the best I can see is an NIT bid at this point, but I don't know. Stranger things have happened. Mike TB31. Pretend you are the AD at Temple. We lose to Dunphy and LaSalle and are sitting at 2-6. Are you making a coaching change? I'm not. I'm not
at that
anticipating
moment or like later on.
I'm reading it as like at that moment. Like if I'm just taking this literal, no, they're not. They're not making a coaching change. Is it? And again, hey, I think people were ready for a change by the time it was Fran's last season. Fran got them to the tournament plenty of times. We know the drill by now. Could have won a couple more NCAA tournament games. Fran Dunphy's still a very, very good basketball coach. If they lose to Fran Dunphy and LaSalle, yeah, it's going to sting. And that's no knock on Dunph. Not at all. Fran's great, but obviously he's trying to rebuild LaSalle for the next guy there. If you lose to Fran Dunphy and LaSalle, yes, it adds insult to injury because it's the former coach. Fran didn't even have eyes on that job. I get it. They're not making a change. They're going to, I would have to think that they're going to allow Aaron the opportunity to get things right this season. Will he? I don't know. They're not making a coaching change at that point. Doesn't look great, but no.
I think it was Shiz I was looking at on Twitter, who he was going back with one of our scoop guys. No disrespect, I can't remember who it was. And Shiz is telling them like, no, I think he gets a 5th year. And like, I don't want to say making excuses for Aaron's 4 years, but like, I'm kind of done with hearing COVID. That's just me. Like, I'm sorry, but all 300 plus Division I programs dealt with COVID.
I think it was a valid excuse for that season because like they did face more restrictions than any other program. Everyone's in the city, but like no, COVID does not impact.
Yeah, like no, this year is just like no, the team's underperforming. And Kyle, you brought up this point, and like I love you for it. Like it's either extend him after year 4 or let him go because you don't bring in a lame duck coach. You're not getting recruits off of that. It's just a lot that you don't get in college with a lame duck coach. So no, if you lose to Dunphy and LaSalle and the season continues to go boom down, then I think, in April, May, Aaron McKee has stepped down from Temple and the search is on.
So I think that's the important thing to call out is when I'm saying like I think there's a fork in the road, you either extend him or you let him go. I think it's more than that in the let him go situation. I think it's like you have it like there would be a conversation with Aaron, like, look, you're one of like the university's favorite sons. Maybe there's an NBA landing spot for you on the bench, or maybe you just want to take your ball and go home. Like I find it hard to believe they would just straight fire Aaron McKee at any point. I definitely don't think it'll happen if he loses to LaSalle and goes 2-6. If Rod Carey got to coach out the year, Aaron McKee will get to coach out the year under this athletic administration.
Now,
especially with like basketball, like you can always get hot and figure it out. Like football, it's like, the writing was on the wall so early on that season with Rod Carey. Like they could have fired him 5 weeks earlier than they did, but they didn't.
Yeah, and like fans will stop coming out, of course. I mean,
do they come out now?
Say the Leah Core Center is already, as Rothstein labels it, a library. But like you just don't get rid of her. I'm not a firm believer of getting rid of a college basketball coach with a decent roster in the middle of the season. Also,
the way that transfer windows work now is December 1 through December 15th is when college basketball players can enter the portal.
Yeah.
If you fired Aaron McKee after a November 30th loss to LaSalle,
a lot.
What's stopping a lot of those guys being like, I'm out. Bye.
Yeah.
Like, granted, a lot of them are going to leave anyway because, like, whatever. Some of them are 5th-year sophomores, but some of those guys are like maybe developmental pieces or future pieces might be like, screw this. Let me get a head start on this and get out of here.
Yeah. The hick from the message again. All these are from
the hick from French Lick.
Larry Bird, alscoop.com subscriber, fired off about 5 million mailbag questions. We love him for it. And I said, can you narrow this down? He said, just pick which ones. We're going to pick one here in the interest of time. One of his questions was, why does Aaron McKee have no successful sets offensively, defensively, out of bounds, out of timeouts? Devon, are you seeing that? I know that's a common, I feel like every, sometimes you see those memes on social media, like this is what dads are saying about games. And again,
8-7 here.
I'm not saying, need need a touchdown heading into the half, need a
Which
big
I'm also guilty of in my
Oh
own
yes,
house.
yeah. But I feel like the most common complaint of basketball fans is this coach stinks out of timeouts. That they came up with that out of a timeout. So I realize it's a common complaint. Again, I'm not saying the staff is doing a great job right now, but like, are you seeing that, Javon, Kyle? Are you seeing that the staff is not drawing up successful sets out of timeouts, whether it's offensively, defensively, or an out of bounds play?
I love this question because I'm big on coaching trees, and like the coaches I'm the biggest fan of, excuse me, like usually come from coaching trees. And Jensen, so in the Vanderbilt game, Jensen was writing a column. Stackhouse, Aaron, boom, 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 whatever. And he asked Aaron, he was like, you played for Larry Brown. Jerry played for Larry Brown. Did you notice him running any of Larry's old sets? And Aaron like distinctly points one out, like the exact action and everything. And it got my gears going. And it was something I thought about earlier in the season, but like not to this extent. Aaron's been around some guys and played for some guys. I don't see him mimic his former coaches. Like he doesn't run Chaney's zone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see
which is hard, which is in fairness very, very hard to do.
Basketball,
It definitely is, but like I'm saying, like that's just the most prominent example.
Right.
Narrowing things down. Like I don't see Chaney's zone, and I can tell you John Chaney's offensive playbook. Like have I looked back at the Macon days and the McKee
it wasn't
days,
super complicated. Like
I haven't. So like I'm just going off of what I can tell you. He doesn't run Chaney's zone. I don't see any of Phil's offense. Granted, no one runs the triangle anymore. But like even Phil had some sets outside of the triangle. I don't see Phil's sets.
He also played 24 games for the Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
Like
that too.
Yeah.
And I don't see Larry's sets. Like I don't see Aaron mimic his former coaches. So that's a good question. I think that might be what it is. Like he tries to do his overly simplified offense that, this team, quite frankly, isn't talented enough to run. So I agree with this sentiment. He does struggle with his offensive sets. He needs to start beg, borrowing, and stealing. That's a great point. I don't see him running much of Dunphy's offense either, which I don't think was also complicated whatsoever.
I do think Dave Duke. Sorry to cut you off, Kyle. Dumph ran. I mean, in some of Chaney's later years, from 01 to 06, I can remember a specific game, and as Temple started to kind of just go downhill a little bit, and they didn't do much of anything from 01 to 06, and they were bringing in guys like Tyreek Byard and Mario Tabron. I mean, I can't remember if it was 03 or 04. Temple went to play Penn at the Palestra, and Dumph just cleaned their clocks by like 25 or 30. He had like Mark Zoller, Klatsky, guys like that, but just beautifully moving the ball around. And they had, when on Dumph's staff, Dave Duke was kind of like his, not in name, but like an offensive coordinator. Dave Duke was a very, very good offensive coach, and they did run a lot of crisp offensive stuff. I want to bring this back to this because, again, relatively speaking, a lot of college programs aren't running super complex stuff. It's a lot of coaches do like to say, hey, we kind of want to try to mimic what the NBA is doing, give our guards some freedom.
But the ones who go deep in March, like, don't focus on that. They're like, no, run my system.
Right,
I've been running with this for 20 years, and they go far. The Mark Hughes, the Tom Izzos, the Greg McDermotts, like, they have clear systems, and they work to perfection. And those are the teams you see make the deep runs all the time.
Right. So can you, like, if Aaron is saying, Javon, like, if he's saying, again, like I said this before, there's too much standing around. Well, like, we all know what the problem is. What can you do between now and Drexel? What can you do between now and the conference tournament? Do you literally like are we led to believe he's going to be like, all right, guys, we got to develop an offensive system? What do you do offensively to fix this?
No, I got a story for you. So earlier this year, I was talking to Chris Crutchfield. Chris Crutchfield was an assistant under Lon Kruger at Oklahoma. He's the one who got them Buddy Hield and Trae Young. He was at Oregon last year. And now he's the head coach of Omaha this year. Before all that, he worked for Lou Henson when Lou was at New Mexico State. And he told a story. He's like, they go to Popeyes. It was Lou Henson's favorite restaurant. He'd go to Popeyes, but he couldn't eat the skin because of his cholesterol. And his wife would fuss at him all the time. So like he'd rip the skin off, eat his Popeyes, and then he'd just start drawing up plays on napkins. And like the next Next day in practice, they're going over those plays, and like it's a part of their playbook for the rest of the season. It's that simple. Go to Popeyes, peel off the skin off some chicken, and draw some plays on the napkins. Like, no, implementing a system is not as tedious as people think in basketball. Like, if you're playing D1 basketball, you're supposed to have the mental capacity to pick up on some plays. Like, granted, you can have some slip-ups, and this is where Hyseer, being the point guard, is the one who has to memorize the whole offense. It's really on his shoulders to like tell people, no, this is your role in this action or this set. But no, like, you can sit down. Him, Chris Clark, and Jimmy Finnerty can sit down this weekend and draw up a whole bunch of plays and start implementing them in practice and see those plays get implemented on Sunday. So it's that simple. Go to Popeyes, rip the skin off some chicken, eat it.
I've got one 5 minutes. I've got one 5 minutes.
Boom.
5 minutes away on over by City Line Avenue. We'll meet them over there. It'll be great content.
Two things. Apparently, you can buy a Popeyes turkey this year, $60. It's a fully cooked turkey that Popeyes made for you.
Probably delicious.
Two, let's not pretend they're not doing this, right?
No, I know.
Like they're professional basketball coaches.
That's what I was going to say as a follow-up. Like, they can't not have. Yeah. I guess I'm just sitting here again, like trying to like get rid of all the and Javon, like everything you're saying makes total sense. But like,
right,
we see him drawing up stuff. Like they can't not have sets. But it's like, how do they have sets and like they literally just go out and look like that?
The other thing
that would be my question. Is that the case? Is it guys are waving him off? Like, no, we're not running that, pulling a straight Magic Johnson of, no, Paul Westphal, I'm not running your plays. Or is it like his plays just are that basic and they don't help? Like, I'd have to be in depth in practice every day to see that.
So the thing is, like, he also mentions defense in this. And last year, they had a good defensive presence. Like, they had an identity on defense. And that's kind of what, like, masked a lot of their problems on offense. They were bad on offense last year, too. Like, this isn't anything new, right? Like, they've been bad on offense since Aaron McKee took over. The difference is, a couple times, like, you had Quentin Rose your first year that could kind of get you a bucket. And then you were good on defense that got past, that made people look past this stuff. So, like, I don't know what happened. I think a lot of it, honestly, like, I know we're talking a lot about the coaches. I think a lot of it goes back on the players. I really do. I think a lot of it's just like, this is a team that when things are going well, everything looks fine. Everyone looks happy and they're happy to be out there and they're playing. The second something goes bad with this team,
they crumble.
And not just on the court. Like, Jameel Reynolds and Damian Dunn did not look interested in the game at the end of the game. Like, they just seem like they just completely they get punched in the mouth and falls apart. And I think at a certain point, like, there's only so much a coach can do with that. I think it has to be player driven.
And that's what separates good and great players. Like, good players will get off to hot starts, and then teams will do their scouting reports and like, okay, we're not going to let those guys beat us, formulate a defense against us. The good players will, the game plan randomly, not going to be my night. Somebody else take over. The great players will be, all right, if they're going to double me from these angles, I need to get to this spot at this time, or I need to get the ball to this person at this time and relocate to this spot at this time. Like, they figure out ways of, okay, I just have to speed up. Dame didn't do that, and Jamil. It's harder for big men to do it, but so I'll give Jamil a pass for right now. But Dame has to start realizing that, like, okay, every time I get the ball at the wing, they're going to meet me at the elbow with the double. So I need to either be ready for a skip pass, or I need to pass and cut back door before the next double comes or something. And I do want to be fair, back to the playbook thing. We do go to practice at least once a week. Like, no, they do spend a good 15 minutes, like, just going straight through sets and making sure, like, those things are crisp. I think that's where I'm more on Kyle's side of this, the players thing. Dame, Hyseer, y'all bring the ball up. Instead of just worrying about getting the ball past half court through these traps, get it through and then set up the offense. That's a point guard's duty. Aaron can't call the plays all game. Like, he's human. He's going to forget some stuff. He's going to be focused on some other things. Jimmy can't scream all game. Chris can't scream all game from the sideline. Hyseer, Dame, at some point, you have to take command as the point guards and set up the offense and facilitate the playbook. It is your responsibility to have the best knowledge of the playbook on the roster and run it effectively. So it is a 50-50 of player and coaching staff with Temple's problems.
A few more to get through here. Diamond and Broad from the message board. When McKee took over, I expected a culture change and a big change in the product on the floor. While the talent level has improved, the product remains stale. Do you think Aaron's coaching has improved at all in the past 4 years? Why does this team run through offensive sets?
Let's answer that part, because I think the rest of it we've kind of touched on. Do we think Aaron McKee's coaching has improved over the last 4 years?
I mean, how can you say it has right now when they're where they are? I mean, part of it is on the coaches.
Yes. I want to say yes.
Right.
And I know I've been like not the biggest fan of how the ship's been run this season, but like, come on, we can't just throw last season away. You lose KB, and you look lost for 2 games, and then all of a sudden, you have formulated a system to let the team thrive in his absence. Like, no, Aaron definitely is a better coach right now than he was when he started the gig. So I'm not going to say he hasn't and just simply say it's because of the talent. No, Aaron has proven that he can coach basketball. Last season was almost a masterclass of it. If they don't melt down against Tulane in the conference tournament, like I would say, he did put on a masterclass of no, he can coach without, great talent. So I'm not just going to disregard that. Has he dropped off a bit from last year to this year? Maybe. I won't maybe, but I'm not going to sit here and say he hasn't improved. That's just flat out false and unfair.
I agree with all that. I mean, I think even the Tulane thing last year, they were just leaking oil by the end. Like that team was,
and guys got hurt that game.
They were so hurt by the end of the year. Like, and the fact that they made it as far as they did and went 17 and 14 or whatever with that was, like a very good coaching job at his part. So I would agree with pretty much everything he said.
And I'm kind of amending the question here because this isn't what Diamond and Broad asked, but Core on one hand in the portal, Core John Cooch hasn't really done much for you.
He moved the ball relatively well yesterday.
Right. But you got to give him credit. And this is more of a recruiting and a talent evaluation thing. I mean, they look, again, he had his struggles last night, but right now they look smart for going after Jamil Reynolds in the portal. And he had a few good games in his 2 seasons at UCF, but that was one guy in the preseason where, we heard it from Jimmy, hey, UCF told us if you can get him in shape, if you can improve him, he's a future pro. I'm not putting him in the draft yet, but he can clearly play. So that's been.
And he is taking his conditioning seriously too.
Yeah.
I want to give him his flowers for that. Friday, like we were right there on the baseline and next to Temple's bench. Like Jimmy checks on Jamil all game long. And like now Jamil was putting together more stretches of minutes where he's telling Jimmy, no, I'm good. I'll let you know when I need one. Keep Core on the bench. Which is good for Temple because the less Core Yonkic, the better. I'm sorry. I know it's been 6 games, but I'll say it. He's a swing and miss. And he can't play basketball at this level.
I think all we got to do is look at Nick Jourdain to say that hey, you shouldn't make bold claims after 6-game sample sizes.
I hear, Kyle. I know, but like with this one.
No, I mean I
feel real confident.
He just has to find his role.
Yeah, I feel like his role is what it is at this point. Like he's outshadowed by Jamil Reynolds. Like period. Like they took 2 swings at it and they hit let's say a double on one of them. They struck out so far on the other. Like
he hasn't been able to do.
But I think he's like, I don't think he's a strikeout that worked the count though, Kyle. Like I think he was 3 up and 3 down strikeout. Like offensively, it is 4 on 5 with Core out there. And defensively, it's okay.
Far. I mean, in the end, like you're still talking to some guy who essentially averaged like a double-double for a like fringe-ish NCAA team. So like I don't fault them for taking like a 1-year guy at a position that they needed depth at.
Oh yeah.
Like,
he just hasn't been able to do what they hoped he was going to do, which is basically like score on lobs and stuff. Even like as soon as the ball comes to his hands, he looks like he's like, I don't know what to do with it. You know,
one shot in the last 50 minutes. Yeah. In the last 64 minutes, he's taken 1 shot.
Yeah,
which is like, not ideal.
I hate to come off as the hot take guy. I really do.
But here it comes.
But like, I'm kind of ready to see Opomo get some minutes again. Because I don't think Okpomo
I don't
looked
necessarily
lost.
think that's a hot take.
Yeah,
I mean,
like because he didn't look lost to me last year. He just couldn't stay in shape.
He played
couldn't
like
stay out of
18
foul
minutes.
trouble. That's the point. Like that's the thing. It was a small sample size. But like in that small sample size, he didn't look lost. He just looked out of shape and undisciplined.
I
it's
mean, I
not
think
an injury too. I had a neck
it's health.
injury too.
Yeah, health
too.
is a thing with him. I think you're still gonna see him. Like, I think especially once they get in conference play, like he's a matchup dependent big. They're like they say they want to run, and like you can't run with Akpomo.
No.
That doesn't mean one that they actually run because they usually don't, and two, like I think you'll see him against. I'm sure UCF has another big man that they'll roll out that Akpomo will have to go against.
All right, so we're gonna zip through these. We're gonna zip through these next couple here because we got some football to touch on too. P. Furmai, there's a screen name here. Do you think if Jeremiah Williams stayed at Temple and didn't get injured, this would be a better overall team? It seems like we lost the head of the snake on D without him, on top of Jaleel White unable to stay out of foul trouble. We should note that, again, I don't think he went in the game last night. Jaleel White did not play last night, has struggled on offense, but is still one of their top defensive players. If Jeremiah Williams stays, what's going on?
Yeah, they're a better team if you add a top defender who's also has 2 years of experience running the offensive point guard. Like, yeah, they're a better team. I think then you would see Hysier off the bench.
Yeah.
You probably see even less minutes for Shane Dezonie than you do now.
Who looks lost so far?
Yeah,
he just looks timid. I wouldn't even say
he
lost.
hasn't played.
He
He looks like
Yeah.
somebody just has not played meaningful college basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, with Jay Will, I don't know if they have a loss right now. Like, not to be over exaggerated, but like all of their problems, he did a lot to like fix last year. Ran the offense, protected the ball, played defense on the best ball handler.
I think they still would have lost the St. John's game.
You believe so?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with. I think they would have. They would have.
I
beat
don't think
Wagner.
Montez Mathis like is available to get off the way he did if Jay Will was there, because that's his matchup then.
Yeah, I mean it's fair, but I think St. John's is just like a good enough team that like also like this isn't happening in a silo or a petri dish, right? Like if you add if you add Jeremiah Williams to this, like also teams can adjust for Jeremiah Williams, so like they would have played that differently. But no, I still think they would have been like maybe 5-1 or something like that.
I respect that. Yeah.
In the end, like Jeremiah Williams left. So like this isn't something that happened to them in September. It happened to them in April. He left in April, and they've had 7 months to practice and learn to grow without Jeremiah Williams there. And this is what they've done. Like I get that, like literally you're probably 3 plays away from being like 5-1. Like I get that, but they're not. Like they've lost 4 of their first 6 games. So like I try to just avoid playing like what if they had done that and if that, and they didn't.
Can't go back in time.
Right.
All right, we'll finish out the basketball portion of the mailbag here with this screen name Corona Tuesday, a new poster on the board. How do you guys feel about one of Temple star players posting their individual highlights to social media 30 minutes after that horrendous loss to Richmond? I didn't see anything like that. If you're referring to, looks like somebody, what do we see here? It looks like somebody tagged Caleb Battle on something.
Yeah, like Corona Tuesday. Thanks for the support.
Yeah,
keep commenting and keep listening. But like, if a dude is getting tagged on Instagram of like a play and he posts it, like that is just normal.
Yeah, I think that's an unfair leap to say that Caleb Battle like rushed to his phone and was immediately looking to post his highlights.
Yeah, like if he had somebody there to record him and make a highlight tape and then he posted it, that'd be a problem. But this one is like once again, thanks for the support, but it's 2022. That's
also I was gonna say that, like, I'm sure anybody that's ever tweeted about a football player or a basketball player during a game that gets any traction realizes that 10 minutes after that game ends, those guys are searching their own names and stuff too. Like that's just kind of like 2022 athletes is like you're gonna see like Temple football can lose by 30, but you comment on so-and-so making a good tackle for a loss, and all of a sudden you get likes and retweets of that 10 minutes after the final whistle. So these things happen.
All right. We do have a Temple football team to talk about to close things out here. We won't go on and on about the Cincinnati loss other than,
it was fine.
They 13 first downs, 167 yards of total offense, and a 23-3 loss, 1.8 yards per rush. No?
They had like 202 yards of offense because they had 167 passing and then 35 net rush, right? loading my
I
thing
think
up.
Kyle was right with
Yeah,
202.
I think it's
All right, we do have a Temple football team to talk about to close things out here. We won't get too far into the weeds on the Cincinnati loss here. We'll talk a little bit more about ECU and then what's ahead for the program in general. But yeah, not much going at all in the Cincinnati game. Not much offense. 200 yards of total offense.
202.
202.
Good highway.
Great highway. I don't know. Can you say any highway in Pennsylvania is great? Probably has some potholes somewhere.
Oh, most certainly.
But Cincy's defense forced 4 turnovers. Not much going there at all. No Darian Varner in that game. Leighton Jordan had 2.5 sacks, so he's up to 9 this season. He's tied with Ivan Pace for second in the league, just behind Navy's John Marshall, who's leading the American with 10.5 sacks. But just really stonewalled on both fronts there. Now you're just trying to close out the season on a high note, honoring the seniors, and then it's after Saturday, the coaches will be hitting the road again to keep their verbal commitments in place, try to fill out anybody else that's going to sign next month in December. ECU 6-5. They've lost 2 in a row, including just getting routed by Houston last week, 42-3, after they played Cincinnati tough in a 27-25 loss. How do you guys see things playing out Saturday? I mean, ECU's played really, really well in some stretches this year. Holton Ahlers feels like he's been at ECU.
That dude's 27 years old.
Yeah, he's eligible for retirement pretty soon. He's been there a long time, but he's thrown for almost 3,100 yards. Keaton Mitchell's having another 1,000-yard season. Isaiah Winstead's a pretty good wide receiver. I think they're. I shouldn't. It just, Temple's coming off a bad game, but ECU's been a tricky team this year. It all depends on how
They have not met their
healthy.
expectations. They have not met their expectations.
Yeah. How healthy and motivated is Temple going to be on Saturday?
No, I want to flesh that out. What ECU hasn't met their expectations?
No, I feel like the consensus of like American Athletic Conference media expected them to be better than 6-6 this year.
Mm-hmm.
6-5 at this point in the year. I don't know. I feel like they were supposed to be better this season.
Well, I mean, coming as an AAC media member, I put very low value into the opinions of AAC media members. But I think that's fairish. I think Mike Houston's done a good job there. I think they were pretty bad when he took over.
Yeah.
At the end of the Scotty Montgomery era, like Scotty Montgomery was a waste. They should have never fired Ruffin McNeil. I think 7-5's fine for them. I think Mike Houston's going to get another job. I don't know if it's this year. If Dave Doran leaves NC State, I think he'd be perfect there. Yeah, I think it's just Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
No, you're good. I was going to pivot back to the actual game if you want to talk.
No, I was just going to add something that, not to sound rude, but guys over the age of 24 still playing collegiate athletics. I'm going to just tell you straight up because I love you and nobody else will tell you. Give it up. Hang it up.
Yeah.
It's over. You're not going pro. You have your master's degree already. I'm sure of it. And if you don't, then you got bigger fish to fry. Like, give it up. Move out the way. Life goes on beyond ball playing. What you can do with that ball matters very little in the grand scheme of things once you're finished playing. Not many people will give a damn what you can do with the ball in your hands. There is more that makes you a person. Give it up.
In fairness, Holden, I think,
the young
actually
guy,
like 22.
Let the young guy. No, I know, but you just making that joke made.
No, you're right.
Just brought it up. Like Mr. 26-year-old DeAndre Williams playing small forward or power forward down at Memphis. Like,
right.
Yeah, at that point, it's time to give it up. You let somebody else get their opportunity. You're done.
There was like a TikTok of like when like the 6-year defensive back tells you they need to lock somebody down, it's to be like, why don't you lock down a job application?
Yeah, you just can't cut it. Go lock down somebody your age. Like I'm a kid at this point compared to you.
Well, you could have had this conversation with the Eagles before they drafted Danny Watkins. Because he was older, right?
He was 26. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like basketball last year when Zach Hicks was 17 years old at one point, defending 24-year-olds, right, on Houston. Like, oh well. I think it's entirely a vibe game. Like, I think you just want to leave the season in like better feelings. I think the Cincinnati game was just kind of like okay. Like if you had told me beforehand like they're gonna lose 23-3, I'd be like, okay. I'd sign off on that because like they didn't get manhandled by a bad Cincinnati offense. They actually forced the Cincinnati quarterback change, whether it's through injury or lack of performance. Ben Bryant did not finish the game. I think it was fine this year coming into this. I think a couple storylines to follow is who's actually walking on senior day. Not that means anything. Like we in 2020, Randall Jones, William Kwenku, and Freddie Johnson all walked. Cuenca. He didn't tell us that yet at that time though. In 2020, they all walked on senior day, and then they came back the next year anyway. So like it doesn't prevent you from using your eligibility, but there's going to be guys out there that. Is this the last time you see a Temple? Is this Leighton Jordan leave after this because he's going to be a graduate? Like, does he enter the draft or does he enter the portal or anything like that? I think that's interesting stat wise. I mean, EJ Warner still has the chance to set some records. He could set the completion attempts in a single season record. He can probably get into like the top 4 for passing. Leighton Jordan has a chance at like, if he had a monster game tying Hassan Reddick and Dan Klecko for the most tackles for a loss in the season, like you're just looking for stuff like that, right? The game itself does not matter. If they go out and lose 60-0 to ECU on senior day, then that probably enters the offseason with bad taste in your mouth. But one thing I do want to call out is the staff cannot go on the road this week to secure up verbal commitments next week. Is it dead that they've made the
right? They have the dead period, and then eventually as we turn to a little bit further into December. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the NCAA changed that in the last couple of years with that week after the regular season. They used to be during championship week. If you weren't in the championship, like you can just go hit the road and you do that. And now it's kind of like, well, shore up your own team because the portal for FBS opens up December 5th. So that's why you're seeing guys enter the portal now. All of them are FCS because it's based upon when the championships get announced, and the FCS has already announced its playoff bracket. So like, that's when things are really going to start, cooking with gas. I think is that like 2 week stretch from December 5th through signing day on the 21st or whatever, where that's when you're going to start seeing a lot of movement on this team.
Mm-hmm. Real quick. Go ahead.
I got to the point where I'm doing speculative follows. I'm like, oh, this wide receiver from Wagner played for Preston Brown's 7v7 team, and he was pretty good. So maybe there's a connection there. I'm doing speculative follows. We're getting ready for recruiting season. Basketball falling off just sparks my Cruton coverage. So that's what we're doing.
Caden will be back in prime form. No, you brought up Leighton Jordan. Like I think we all agree he has to go straight to the draft, right? Like I think for me, he's got 2 different streaks of 3 games without recording a sack. When I see that, I'm like, I don't want you to risk going Power 5 and it not working out. Like I think for me personally, I'd advise him declare because I don't think Power 5 is going to do anything for you.
Well, I think it's important in that stretch that he was still making like TFLs,
and he was
he was still making his impact. And one of those stretches, I think he also had one of his pick sixes. So I agree with I think he's kind of in that no man's land of either you declare and like you hope you become like a 4th, 5th, 6th round pick, and you go from there, or I think you come back to Temple. Because I think if you're just like leaving for like, okay, I want NIL money to go to whatever, Pitt, West Virginia, Arkansas, wherever, I think you would make more money just declaring and like trying to get drafted, figuring that out than you would get from NIL. Like he's not such a massively great player that someone's like, okay, this is Jordan Addison. Like we're going to give him $2 billion from the transfer here. Like that's not going to happen. Right.
Yeah, so it's got to be right fit for him. Like if he goes to a Power 5, like if it's I'm literally just gonna pick any, like it could be Virginia Tech, could be West Virginia, could whatever school, and they're like, oh, this kid from Temple, Leighton Jordan's pretty good. He's gonna be depth here. We'll tell him he can come in and compete. But if it's a bad fit for him, he could absolutely hurt his draft stock. Do I think he's a day 1, day 2 pick if he declares now? No, we'll see what kind of evaluation he gets. But yeah, he could make the wrong move and lose himself some money. I think
regardless. I think you see him declare and go through that process like Quincy Roche went through, where like you get like if this was to happen today, you would be a 5th round pick or whatever. I don't think I would think his 2 options are draft or stay. Because I think you look at a guy like Quincy, love Quincy Roche. He did not help his draft stock by going to Miami. No. He got drafted the exact same spot he would have gotten drafted if he had stayed at Temple or declared after Temple rather. So, but the thing with Leto is his size, right? Like, Does that prevent him from the NFL? Like, he's not a defensive end in the NFL. He's going to have to be an outside linebacker, I think. And that becomes kind of, I know you got 2 pick sixes, but are you confident in the NFL with him dropping back like the Eagles drop Reddit back a fair amount? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think Little's best option is just declare, go through the pro test well. Like he's got his thing's going to come down to his test numbers. Test great at pro day, test good at the combine, and hope you get a round 5, 6, 7 phone call.
Yeah, and like I don't want to undermine like what he did. Like he did exactly what he needed to do this year. He was like he had a hell of a season. He stood out on defense. He stayed healthy. Best ability is availability, right? Like he's played every game. Darian Varner is out for the season, so like there goes like the other like star of this defense. If he goes out there and he finishes with like he gets a sack and 2 TFLs this week, and he finishes with 10 sacks and 20 tackles for a loss, like that's only been done like once at Temple. So the fact that you're putting yourself in that company is impressive. Since we didn't get any football mailbag questions, I want to pose one to you guys. If you were in charge of this roster and you could add like 3 positions to this team, what do you target in the transfer portal or recruiting? Like, who are you adding to this team? Not players, obviously. Like, what positions?
Running back.
What's on your Christmas list? Essentially, is my question.
A left tackle, a running back, and I guess a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think I'm with John. I love defense, but I think like when you go off of need, you kind of let the defense rock out where it is and go with that, unless you replace receiver with corner. Yeah, for the sake of being different, I would say left tackle. And no, you got to give the running backs a chance too. So I would say left tackle, corner, and receiver. How about that?
I think I'm going left tackle, left guard, center. Like I think if you could just like plug in 3 like guys that are startable at this level on the offensive. Yeah, like center is Wisdom Corshi playing center next year. Richard Rodriguez technically has a year of eligibility, I think.
Yeah,
but it's also like he has to stay healthy, and
he's got a knee issue. Yeah,
I think you probably feel okay with like Victor Stoffel. Like he's played fine. I just think like if you can shore up this offensive line, like that helps that team so much. Like wide receivers, like if everyone comes back, they're supposed to come back, which I don't know if they're going to. Like you have some proven commodities there in Anderson, Jose, and I guess Say Baines to an extent now. Like I feel like you can kind of piece that together.
Yeah, give me left tackle, center, and corner. Thanks for saying that, Kyle.
Real quick. Just heading into Saturday's game, Donica Sanders and Wiz are day-to-day. Stan Drayton said they're continuing to recover from injuries. Mod Anderson's going to be back from his 1-game suspension. Do we want to make predictions off of Saturday? Because I got a question to pose to you guys too.
I think Dono plays number 1 because he's proven every time that he can at least take a few snaps. He's going to go out there and play. And it's his senior day. I'd put money on him playing.
Yeah, I wish they got 4 years out of him. Like the fact that Temple fans only got to see him for like 8-9 games is a shame because that dude is. If you could put Adonicus Sanders' mentality into this basketball team, that would probably help.
Yes,
he play some basketball.
He does. He has a Rivals basketball.
Has a Rivals
account.
profile. Every time we tag him in stories, both
it's like 6'3" forward from South Carolina.
One of these days I'm gonna tag him with his basketball recruiting profile, and someone get a laugh out of it.
His brother Sidney was a pretty damn good player in the Carolinas.
It's good knowledge on your part.
That is very good knowledge. What about predictions?
I'll say good vibe, bad result. I'll say ECU 31, Temple 27.
I think,
and then they enter the offseason with the crap. We got a lot of holes to plug here.
I think this is a game where Drayton says it's the last game of the season. I'm going to be aggressive. I want to win. And either a 4th down or a 2-point conversion call costs them. And Temple loses 20 to 18. Something nasty like that.
That would be a nasty result. That would be like a bad vibes and bad.
Matter of fact, 20 to 19 to make things more spicy. Yeah, make it spicy. 20 to 19.
He goes for 2 to win it and loses the The 2-point fails, the 2-point.
Oh, I could see that. I could see that happening. I think I'm going to lose 24-21 for whatever it's worth. Here's a question I wanted to ask you guys to close things out. Give me a player on each side of the ball, because again, we're not going to break down this game on and on here. I think it's more about thinking about the future with this team. Give me a player that we're going to be talking about.
Real quick. This, I mean, I don't think this is like official, but like the fact that these are the guys that are like broadcasting that they are going to honor on Saturday. Some of these guys still have eligibility left, which is probably pretty telling. Adam Klein makes sense. Donica Sanders, Zach Gill, Isaac Moore, Luke Foster. Those are all guys that are out of eligibility. Cadis Ream still has eligibility, senior day. Evan Boozer still has eligibility, senior day. Cam Ruiz out of eligibility. Deshaun Winston still has eligibility, senior day. Ron Gaines lost his job at long snapper, still has eligibility, senior day. Jalen Ware is out of eligibility. I think Mackenzie Morgan might actually have a year because of weird COVID rules, but they're advertising him. And TJ Pergine, who's the walk-on quarterback. So there's some handful of guys in there. Deshaun Winston, Cadis Reams, Evan Boozer, that this might be. But you don't see Lane Jordan's name on there. You don't see Jose Barbon's name on there.
TJ Pergine, interesting guy.
He played at Millersville before transferring here, I believe.
I think that, but yeah, like
Give me
interesting guy.
Give me a player on each side of the ball that we're going to be talking about at this juncture of next season, that we're going to be talking about as like a guy that made big strides next season.
So I'm trying to envision like where the opportunities are going to be. So like in my mind, right off my bat, I go, okay, well, there's probably a starting safety job up for grabs. There's always spots in the defensive line. I'm going to say, I still think Corey Palmer is just too good of an athlete to not find a spot on this team. Like he's played offense, he's played defense, he's played special teams. I'll say maybe he gets in that role of kind of like that flex safety corner. Maybe you're talking about him. I don't think all of a sudden he's going to be a NFL player next year. Bob mentioned him. On offense, I'm kind of liking what I see out of Zay Baines so far. And all of a sudden, if Dono gone, Juan Mathis might move on. You never know. Jose Barbon might move on. You never know. I think there's going to be plenty of catches to go around. I think you're going to see him as like, oh, that's a guy that caught 50 balls in 2023.
What do you think, Javon?
I think I'm not going to Corey Palmer route. I'll tell you that right now. I think probably Balansama Kamara we can see breakout.
It's the same thing though. Like who's he starting over?
You're right. That's the question. But I think he when he gets on the field, he makes some pretty decent plays for the team.
Yeah, half of it's opportunity though. So like that's what concerns me with him. Like he started last week, and like he had a shot there. And he played well against Rutgers. But like if Lane Jordan comes back, then like where are your snaps?
Right. And I think offensively, Zay Baines is the cheat answer, right? I next year, I'll tell you this though. I need to see less David Martin Robinson.
I knew you were going to say that, yeah.
And way more Jordan Smith. Like, I don't care what you feel like DMR's accomplished or he's some leader in the locker room. Y'all know me. I quite frankly don't give a damn. Who's out there producing on Saturday? It's Jordan Smith. Jordan Smith's the best tight end on his roster by far. I don't care. Like, okay, he can't block too well. Put some muscle on him.
He can't do 70% of the position.
Listen. Here's my thing.
Also, keep in mind, David Moore Robinson had 114 yards in a tutty like a week and a half ago.
Yeah, I hear you, but like, congratulations, woo-hoo. But I'm going off the full season. Jordan Smith's a better tight end. You want to make him block, put some muscle on him, and make him work out with Ree's hand all winter. Like, there's ways around this. You can fix him as a blocker. That's not the worst thing. That's not the hardest thing in the world to do. But
I have heard from literally people that like coach that position that no, it's not as simple as that. But okay.
Well, I'll go to you on this one. But I think you give it a try. Either way, less DMR, more Jordan Smith. EJ has proven he can throw. And Jordan Smith has proven he is a damn good target. Spread the offense out. Let EJ slink it out. And let Jordan Smith catch some touchdowns.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like I think they can both just play. They play a lot of 2 tight end sets.
Yeah, they can, but when you're in those 3-by-1s and 1 tight end sets,
And like
the 1 tight end used to be Jordan.
Jordan moves off the line a fair amount. Like they use him out of the slot. Like I think he's gotten plenty of opportunities. Sure, like has he flashed? Yeah, absolutely. But I think DMR's flashed at times as well.
I mean, I had the same answer on offense, say Baines. I'm intrigued by, I don't know. I mean, I know we started to see a little bit more time. Again, I agree. Who's he going to start over at a deep position? Antoine Santiago was a guy that they really like, and he was silently committed to Rod's staff, and the new staff liked him. He's got great size at that position. He's a true freshman. He's starting to see some snaps here and there. I think they're in good hands at that linebacker position. Between him, maybe a Sam Martin at safety.
Sam Martin returned kicks last week.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting.
Here's what I'll say about kind of that is I don't think the defense is that bad. To be honest, like I think they have enough talent. I think the scheme's fine. I think they they had 5.5 sacks again, or 5 sacks against Cincinnati. Like that's pretty good. I think the issue is that like the offense is not set up in a way to help the defense. Like the fact that they cannot have sustained drives at times, and they have these 3 and outs, and like even when they are productive, it's usually like 6 play drives that they just happen to get productive on. Like that just wears the defense down. If all of a sudden they boost this offensive line and they're able to have these 14 play drives that take up 7 minutes, the defense is going to look a lot better.
One other guy I think that we could be talking about on offense.
DeMar Grove on defense is another guy that kind of sticks out to me. A late addition.
On offense, if he can stay healthy, James Faminu, on the offensive line, whether it's at one of the guard positions, if you can maybe push him out to tackle, we'll see. But I don't know. Anyway,
they've got plenty of opportunities there for old London James.
Yes. Well, thanks for sticking with us for a long episode, a very full mailbag. Hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful holiday with your families. And any closing thoughts, any words of wisdom, guys?
Stay safe, stay healthy. Vegans, stay away from me tomorrow. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I'm going to eat all of this animal, and I'm going to have a good time doing it.
Javon just coming to the vegan community.
You will not
vegans that you were around there just still critiquing you.
Seemed like just like an out of nowhere shot. Like Javon's
I'm just saying in general. They always come out around Thanksgiving and have something to say. And damn it, I just don't care. With all
do you live in a King of Queens episode? Like I eat Thanksgiving with a vegan every year, and I never get any guff for eating meat around them.
Hey, listen. I'm just saying, in case they're out there and they're listening. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to eat my turkey.
The scoop is very big.
I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going to enjoy it very much.
Very big in the vegan community, the scoop.
Probably it's probably a vegan that listens to us. I think they're allowed to have their opinions. We're allowed to have ours.
Yes.
Who's the vegan that you eat Thanksgiving with?
My brother's a vegan. My brother's been a vegan for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
God bless his heart. Ooh,
Well,
that takes a lot of self-restraint. That's that. I respect that. I really do. Ooh.
Just don't come around though.
All right. Thank you all for listening. We will talk to you soon.